All right, so let's go ahead and move on and talk about some of our content here. As I go along, these are just things that came to my mind and some of the other, members of our board. As part of the year end, there might be other solutions out there as well. So really want this to be a way of sharing. So if I have ideas, I'll share with you. If you have thoughts and ideas on how you've tackled some of these year-end challenges on your side, share those as well. I think that's part of the value of these workshops is learning from each other. And then if you're really struggling with something, like wondering how someone put something into place or how they track it, how they govern it or organize it, give a shout out. Maybe we have a tool, right? I've created spreadsheets, for instance, on my end when I tackled some of those things, or other tools that might be useful that we can share with each other. So don't be afraid to speak up if you have those questions. All right, hopefully you can see the slide deck here. Let me know if you can't. And if you can, I'm just going to jump into the agenda. And the agenda is really built around roles, which I know each of you has a different role right now in your PTAs. But there's some things that we're going to cover that will apply to all roles, to everybody within the board or within the PTA. There's some that are specific then to president, treasurer, secretary, and if you have a membership officer or membership chair, I threw some things in there that came to my mind as well at this time of the year. But those might be split up across other roles or other people within your group today. Okay, so I'm going to jump into the all roles first. This is kind of the not really any one person is accountable, but everybody has a part of this. And one of the big ones, especially nowadays with the use of Gmail or other tools to track and store information, is what are the different accounts and passwords you might need to pass on to those who are taking over in your role going forward. And that might be at many different levels. You may have Sign Up Genius, you might have Zoom, you might have all kinds of different tools used and managed by different parts of your PTA. And so making sure that information gets passed on, partly because it's those tools have been valuable in the past and probably still will be, but also just keeping that history. It's often nice to go back and look at the past Sign Up Genius for whatever program you might be looking at, right? To be able to copy or duplicate that into next year's activities, for instance. So super important to carry that forward. I think one of the big challenges we've always run into is, what email should we be using? Should we be using a PTA email that's a Gmail account? Should we be using personal accounts? If you use personal accounts, how do you pass on some of that information and not expose your private information, right? So hopefully you've got email accounts and other accounts that are able to be used and carried forward by officers and aren't personal, where that information isn't something you can pass on to the next person in your role. Okay. Some other things to think about, we have board training sessions coming up, and Kristen, hopefully I have this right, but I think we have August 1st in Minot and August 2nd in Fargo right now as tentative dates that we're looking at for some sessions. And so very excited to get people face to face in those sessions. If you want to at least save the date right now for August 1st or August 2nd, depending on where you're closest to those locations, please do. And then more information will be coming out as we get closer to those training opportunities. So I wanted to mention those as well. And those would be for current board, prospective board members, if there's people you are nurturing into roles from chairperson to officer, I'm sure they could probably attend as well and kind of get more comfortable as you're building them and mentoring them into those roles in the future. Okay, and then the last one is, making sure, and it sounds like most of you or all of you have the liaisons for your PTAs, but if you don't, or that gets lost somewhere down the line, really connecting with North Dakota PTA, connecting with your liaison. They can help in so many different ways. Many of them have gone through their own PTAs and had challenges they've addressed or unique solutions they've found. They can help as a sounding board. They can help connect you to other people that are within the state level, right? So if you've got questions on reflections, we talk to Shan every month at least, right? So we can bring her in. That's a super popular program, and others as well. So I think that we can be a connection point as a liaison to all the resources that North Dakota and national PTA can bring to challenges. Okay, so those are kind of the things that I thought of for all the roles. Are there anything else that maybe we're missing, or anyone else want to jump in with any thoughts on this one? All right, so I'll take that as no. All right, we'll move on then to the president. And I kind of listed president and past president just because at this time of the year, there's that transition that's often happening if your president is leaving. And so, I think the first thing is between the president and the past president is often deciding what does mentoring look like? What's the past president's role going to be? Is it active? Are they completely leaving the area? Not going to be available to that new president at all? And if they are going to be, what's the coordination plan in handing off and in mentoring and helping that new president be successful? So it's kind of a meeting of the minds there in what's possible and what that looks like. I know I'm the as of a week ago, I'm the past president at our PTA, and so one of the first things I said is I'm still here closing out several things in May. You tell me how much you want me to be active or not, and tell me if I'm overstepping my bounds now because I'm no longer president, but I still have a lot of responsibilities that I had started prior to the elections that I want to finish out, for the end of the school year. So just having that quick discussion, I think really helped us understand how we're going to work together, in this next month and then even over the summer and into next fall. Again, communicating your new officers, the easiest way is through Member Hub. You can go to Member Hub, you can put in for 2022, 2023 school year, you can put your new officers in if you have some changes, and those should be in by June 15th. You can also do it on a paper copy if you want, or you can email it in. I think Kristen just sent that out today. I think, Kristen, you sent kind of an update out.
A short newsletter, and I think we have to have them into national by June 15th.
Okay, so yeah, that we maybe a little bit earlier than that, but that's the very end of the time, I think, is June 15th to have those into us. So if you get them in earlier, that's great. And many of us have elections in April or May, so we probably already know or will soon know this week or so who those officers will be. So the earlier you get them in, the better. All right, and then determining what the handover plan looks like for all the departing officers. Making sure that there's currently documentation. If you had guides or procedure books created for different roles, making sure that we start handing over those binders or handing them over electronically or whatever that may look like. The president and the past president can kind of make sure that everybody's got that on their mind and they kind of know that there's a plan to have that done in a timely manner to be ready for next year. Any training that needs to take place, again, making sure that we have treasurers talking to past treasurers. We're looking at what are the tools, what are the processes, secretaries handing over any information, bylaws, for instance, make sure everybody knows where the bylaws are stored and kept and what shape they're in, if they need to be updated soon. We're not kind of doing that handover process. And then any joint completion of work, and I'll talk more about that probably in the treasurer role in a few minutes, but oftentimes there's the year-end financial review that has to take place after July 1st or after June 30th, sorry. There's the tax filing that probably needs to take place sometime again between July and October or November timeframe. So making sure you understand who's going to do that. Is it the past treasurer that will finish that off if there's a transition? Is it going to be the new treasurer? Are you going to sit down together and do that? So again, just making sure that there's a plan between those different roles to complete that work, and who's responsible for what. Just takes a lot of the anxiety out of the summertime. One of the things that we try to do, and I won't say that our PTA has been good at it consistently, but at the end of the year is a great time to really survey members of your PTA and also the general population if you're lucky enough to have contact information for all of the parents, for instance, at your school. It's really a way to understand what they appreciated or loved about what you did this year, the things that maybe they didn't find value in that you maybe don't want to continue on, and do it while it's fresh in their mind. If you wait and come next fall and you're going to ask them, they might not remember all the things that happened and took place over the year. So it's just a great time to put together a quick survey, send it out, and just get that feedback that you can then take forward into next year as you start looking at budgets and looking at programs and things that you want to do. So just one thing that is probably timely at this time of year. Another one that we just all came out of Teacher Appreciation Week, so we probably are thanked out, and we've probably said thank you a lot in the last week or two. But just remember to say thank you. It's a good time of the year to wrap that up, especially with volunteers. We're fortunate to have a lot of great volunteers. Many of them come to multiple events to volunteer throughout the year. It's a great time to thank them and recognize them for that continued help. You've got your power volunteers that they really feel valued if you say, hey, I really recognize that you spent 10 hours this year helping us, or you came to 3 events and you helped us all 3 events throughout the year, and really a way to build that relationship so that you get them back next year, or even have them step into different roles like chair people or officer roles. So just a quick thank you can mean a whole lot to some of those volunteers. Thanking board members that have joined, stuck with you through the years, that sort of thing is a good timely thing to do this time of year. And then planning for next year. It seems odd to immediately start talking about that, but summer goes fast, or at least from my perspective. And before I know it, it's August. I wish I would have done more planning. But looking at the vision and the goals for next year as a president, what do you want to accomplish, or what do you want to continue to do that you've done in the past that really has worked well? And then start thinking about and gathering schedules from people to see if you want to bring your board together over the summertime to do that detailed planning. Start finding those dates now in May before they scatter, because once they do, it's really hard to get people back together in June, July, and then August to figure out how we're going to meet. So you can have those dates and calendar items set for people before they've left for the year. It just seems to go smoother from my perspective.
I had one question here, Jeff.
Yeah.
I was wondering, how do you guys go about thanking your volunteers? Just kind of wondering how you go about thanking them. I mean, we're really good with our teachers and staff. However, additional volunteers, usually we have a tough time getting volunteers. We have a few that will come, maybe 5, but the rest of it ends up being us board members. Mm-hmm. So just wondering, what do you guys do? I know I've seen other posts and pages that say, oh, we do a big meal for our volunteers, a thank you meal, or something like that. So I'm just kind of curious on what you guys do, if you guys have some suggestions on how to thank them.
Yeah, I've done a couple things. So last year, we knew who the volunteers were just because we were all virtual and we had it all recorded, because we knew from Zoom calls and so forth who was helping on different events. So I reached out to them with email and mm-hmm. thanked the power ones, right? There was 6 to 8 of them, right? Every year that seemed to be the power volunteers. And so reached out to them and just sent that quick thank you note. Hey, I really appreciate all that you did at these 3 events. This year I'm still hopeful that I can get together maybe like a meal. Mm-hmm. And it might be just in our backyard. I'm kind of waiting for the rain to stop, but I'd mm-hmm. like to get those power volunteers here along with our board members and just have a barbecue outside at our house. It's also our transition out of the school, so it's kind of a combination of all those things. But I don't want to leave the volunteers out when I celebrate with the board, right? Because I think those volunteers are important. The other thing I did this year was I was looking for board members because I wanted to leave the board in a good place when I left, and so I reached out to those power volunteers with personal messages, actually face to face for the 2/3 of them. Mm-hmm. And just said, hey, you've been a great volunteer for years. You've been here as long as I have. I recognize your name from all these different things you've been helping us with. Would you be willing to step up and be treasurer or be vice president? And so in 2 out of the 3 cases that I did those personal conversations, they are now officers that have been elected. So
good.
Yeah, so just those personal touches, I think, really mean a lot to them, and knowing that someone notices that they are, putting in their time, as them feel, kind of raises their view of PTA, I guess.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. The other thing we've done is, I guess we bought the PTA from the PTA store. We bought the PTA thank you cards, and we've written those out. And one of the big places we've sent those is our print center here in Fargo. We use them for all of our printing. And, oftentimes when I ask for that, it's like, hey, I need it today. So we make sure that every year we do a thank you card for them as well as a big stakeholder, and have all the board sign it and send it to them. With, I think last year I did or 2 years ago, the fruit basket.
Okay.
Sent that over there as well, just to thank them as well. So some of those key business stakeholders do the same sort of thing.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Yep. Good question. Any other questions, or anyone want to throw in what they've done to, as a president, to get through the year-end process?
We usually do the email as well. Sort of a, I think it's as Shan can attest to that it's, and I'm sure it's the same at most of the schools. That's the same, few people who volunteer for anything that comes up. So I fear it would be a sad celebratory lunch, but a small and intimate gathering, I think it would be. But we tend to do the emails for sure.
Yeah, the personal handwritten thank yous seem to make a big difference too.
One thing we started 4 years ago, I guess, maybe we tried, was doing a spotlight member of the month. And so every month we pulled from membership, and we highlighted, just had some stock questions we asked them, asked if they'd share a picture of them and their family, kind of, especially if they were at a PTA event, that we could use, and then we sent that out. And the idea was to try to encourage others to join by showing them what people were getting out of PTA. And then so we did a teacher, we did a member, and then we did a volunteer, right? And so we picked one each month from each of those categories, and we tried to have 3. We didn't do well through COVID carrying that forward. We kind of lost that, but that was another thing that we tried to do to show people, I think, from the volunteer standpoint, that volunteers are just like them, right? I mean, many times we're like, oh, I'm so busy, I can't volunteer. I don't know how those people do it, right? But they find out that they're juggling the same things that everybody else is, right? If they hear about how they balance volunteering with being a parent and being whatever they do outside of that as well. So just another idea, I guess.
Great, thank you guys.
Mm-hmm. All right, move on then. Let's talk about treasurers. Treasurers, I think we always think of the treasurer role as the one that really has a lot of the wrap up, and they do. I think one of the first ones is making sure you have a group that will be able to do your financial review if you're not doing if you don't have a CPA or someone doing your year end, which, at least we've never had that. We've always had an audit committee of people. And so again, just like making sure you connect with your board members before everybody scatters, finding your audit committee members before they all go home for the summer is really important too, because even though you might do it in July, it's really hard to go find people in July when they're not in school anymore. And so really try in May to go out and solicit some people to come in to help do that audit and be ready for July or August whenever we do it. Typically, I think most of us in our bylaws probably have 3 people minimum on the audit committee. They should not have check signing authority. They don't have to be members, though. You can actually go out and find former officers, people who've moved on to another school that might be willing to spend a couple hours helping with the financial review. Just anybody that doesn't have check signing authority could do it. I think it's nice to have a mix, right? Some people who are members who have a stake in that game. Some maybe who aren't members currently, maybe are former members, and just kind of mix it up a little bit to get that variety in the committee might be nice. Obviously, you want to get organized for that year-end review then. So make sure you have all your documentation for all the checks that have been written, whether it's invoices or receipts. The one that we are often challenged by is, we'll have some things we'll write out directly to the school. We do a year-end fund basically that goes to each teacher based on the number of students they have. It's a flat amount. And so then the teacher can choose, or the grade can choose what they want to do with those funds to benefit the students in their classroom. So some will go to a baseball game, or some will, choose to go to an ice cream truck, or whatever they decide to do. And so we don't really have a receipt necessarily for those. We've tried to collect receipts in the past for each teacher. That's problematic. And so since we write one check out to the school, it is permissible to get a letter from the school, or a letter to the school explaining why you're providing those funds and what the money is to be used for. It can also be used as your proof and documentation for that check to the school itself. You want to have a wrap up of your year-end treasurer's report, so the final income and expenses. And so that's something you want to do right at the end of June 30th, because most of our meetings are not happening anymore. We're not reporting out to membership that way, but we need to keep it for our permanent records. And then there is a sample financial review form stored on Member Hub. And so if you need that spreadsheet or the instructions for that, we can provide that to you, or you can get that from Member Hub. All right. One nice thing to do is to start a draft budget for the next treasurer, especially if there's a handover. So don't leave them just starting from ground zero. So they certainly can look back at permanent records to your old budgets, but it might be nice to just start a draft that has kind of basic information. As you do the handover to the new treasurer, then they've got a place to start from. And then as they meet with the new board over the summer, they can fine tune that budget versus starting with a blank page. Okay, and then again, determining the handover on who will do the tax filing. For many of us, hopefully that is very simple, but it might be another good training opportunity for the new treasurer if there's a handoff going on, to walk through that together, just the process, and then they know how to do it for the next year as they're working through as the treasurer role. All right. Any questions on that, or any input on any of those things? Oh, Christy, maybe on mute.
Yeah, there's a lot of documents on Member Hub in the Treasurer's Hub. We've also shared a lot of the documents for the treasurer in particular out in our Facebook group, if you're part of that one, NDPTA leaders.
Yes. Yep. And I've got some resources at the end of this deck too that we'll point to some of those as well. But yep, good call out. All right, anything else on the treasurer role? All right, and then we have the secretary role. This is really, again, just gathering all the permanent records to make sure they're all organized and put together in the final place they're going to be. I know many of us probably keep those electronically today. If not, you probably have a binder or something you keep all that information in and store it for permanent records. But obviously all your meeting minutes for the past year should be in there. The final bylaws, or the bylaws that were in effect during that school year, should be there. Any standing rules or procedure documents should also be kept along with those bylaws. The final financial review and or audit statement from the year, that when it gets done after June 30th, should be kept as well, plus the tax filing documentation should be there as well. One that I guess as I was doing some research, I didn't really think about, but new to me, is really we should be getting a copy of the bank signature card showing who is authorized to sign checks for that year, and that should become part of your permanent records that should be going forward as well. And then insurance policy, which is probably self-explanatory for most of us, but the insurance policy document should also stay in permanent records. So those are just some of the main things that a secretary would want to make sure that is collected and stored going forward. And there's also very good content on length of storage for documentation. I know there's different I don't know if, Kristen, do we have one of those, the record retention stored on our member hub? I can't remember if we put that out there or not.
It's either on Member Hub or Facebook or both.
Okay. Yeah, I knew it was someplace, but if you don't have that, if you're wondering how long do you need to keep certain records, there is a records retention guide that we can help get you connected with. All right. Any questions on any of that? All right. And then the last one was membership. So not, at least in my, before I put this deck together, it wasn't a role I really thought of a lot for year end. I thought it more of the start of the year, kind of get membership, but really a lot of that groundwork happens probably now and over the summer. So, one of the things that you can do, and we've tried to do with varying success, is prepare a PTA year-end review. Right, and that could be different formats. It could be an infographic. It could be just a slide. It could be an email. It could be a poster. Just whatever format you want it to be in, whatever tool you want to use. But kind of bring together the main highlights for the year for PTA. It does a couple things. One is it kind of celebrates the wins, right, of what happened through the year, which is again great for volunteers and great for your members and your board. But it also starts to bring the value proposition for PTA for next year together, right? So these are the things that take place. This is what PTA provides. This is what PTA brings to our school, in our community. Wouldn't you like to be part of that, right? And so you can kind of use that as a springboard for your membership campaign. Start communicating early on memberships. We typically start to sell our memberships in late April, early May for next year. And the way we position that is, we all know how much stuff goes on in the fall. You're trying to get school supplies, you're trying to get things organized, you're getting clothing and all the things that you'll need for the year gathered together. Let's take that off your plate and not have to worry about, did I sign up for PTA or not? You can do that in the spring and take care of it when it's not quite as busy. And then in the fall, you get one less thing to worry about. So that's sort of how we position that one in our school.
I have one question on membership quick.
Yeah.
So we've always done it where we kind of started back to school. Is kind of where we start. We handled stuff like with the kids right away at the beginning of the year. Mm-hmm. How long do you guys accept memberships? I know it's kind of a year-round thing, or you can do it year-round. We've always kind of pushed it right away at the beginning of the year. Now, if someone signs up in like December, is their membership good till the next December, or how does that all work?
No, it stays with the PTA year. So it's just July 1st through June 30th. We've done a couple things, and I played around with membership a lot over the last 5 years because I was really frustrated that numbers didn't go the way I wanted them to. So one of the things I did was January 1st, you could make whatever date you want, but January 1st and beyond, we made it half price. So if it was $15 for the full year, we made it $7.50. So we covered the $4.25 that we send out to state and national, and a little bit more, but not the full deal, right? Because they're not getting a full year's worth of value out of it. We didn't think it really didn't make a lot of difference. I think we got 3 people that signed up after January 1st, but I think you can kind of see what your situation is, and you can kind of play with that and decide if you've got approval from the board of trying some different things.
Okay, cool.
And on the state side, we take membership every month, starting in August, all the way through the end of May, every month.
Okay.
Yeah, we never stopped taking memberships. Again, we played around with what you get for the value of the membership, how much you pay for it. Most of our membership came between July 1st and probably the middle of October. That was kind of the big push that we did. And then just 1s and 2s here and there after that.
Okay. What are some of the really good ideas you guys have had for membership?
I'll tell you. Okay.
I was just going to say, the way we used to do it was they did a back to school night. Us PTA members would all have our same shirts on. We'd be walking around. Everyone would fill it out. You got to chat with people. You got to convince them to join. And we had a great turnout that route, but now they've changed it where we actually don't do a back to school night, and the teachers, you schedule like a one-on-one with the teacher. And so we miss that group socializing status, basically.
Yeah, I think the things that we've done that are most successful, number one is our teachers, because we do reimbursements for expenses to a dollar limit for any teacher that's a member. And so that has consistently brought us 100% teacher membership every year. So that's one thing that we did on that side. On the parent side, we've struggled a little bit. I've tried discounting, I've tried giving away memberships for, different things, right? So you have a free membership if you sign up for, whatever.
Right.
We've tried that. I think the biggest thing that we've done is really go back to last year's members and always send them a message at the beginning of the year when you can start signing up to say, we really appreciated your membership. Make sure you sign up for the next school year. Here's how you can do it really easily, right? So we've really marketed to the existing members to not lose them.
Yep.
That's been our consistently most successful thing.
The other thing that we've done at the elementary level is our PTA buys our kindergartners t-shirts, and usually we put a flyer with it saying, hey, this is everything that your PTA is doing in this school, and include a membership form on it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We've kind of done that. That's kind of how our membership form was. Now our teachers don't actually pay full price. This year we tried to sponsor a teacher. We have half the teachers that say, if you're doing this for me, why do I need to sign up? And then the other half are like, sure, we'll totally be there, so we're kind of half and half, and we don't know. We're only so Castleton is K through 12. The last couple years we were just fourth grade and under, but then the talk throughout the school was basically between the principals and middle school that the 5th, 6th, and 7th graders kind of get lost in lingo and wanted to know if we could take them on as well, which is great. I mean, we're there for the kids, we're there for the teachers, we're more than happy to do that, but then we get no memberships on that end either. So we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place where we don't know, how do we get teachers to sign up when they just think, well, why do we have to sign up if you're doing it for us? And then we kind of lose out there on that middle school ground of upping our members. I mean, I would think for how big Castleton is, we should have more than 70 some members in my point of view, but I don't know how to reach them. I want to reach them.
It's hard. I'm involved with the middle school too, and we actually did better with memberships in the middle school this past year. But again, part of it's teachers. We did startup funds for teachers, and so that helped.
That's an excellent idea.
Yeah, and then I think the other one is just really selling the value, right? We weren't good at the middle school level prior to this year of putting our branding on what we do. Right? All these things happened. We funded, the cart that went around with the snacks for teachers, and we didn't tell anybody about it, right? And the teachers kind of heard about it, but no parents knew. And
right.
So we started really, getting pictures, getting it in the newsletters, and getting it out to saying these are the things that our PTA is doing.
Mm-hmm.
This is the successes, and that started, I think, to turn it around a little bit because people just didn't know.
Right. I think that's kind of where we're at too, where they're so, like at the beginning of the year, all the parents are so bombarded with all these membership forms. Oh, does your kid want to do basketball? Do they want to do volleyball? Do they want to do soccer? And then you sit down. I'm one that sits down and looks through everything, but not everybody does that. So.
And besides that, something that's really been impressed on me in this last year that I didn't know about was, like I'm going to a meeting on Thursday morning as part of all the stakeholders with the Every Student Succeeds Act. I didn't know PTA was one of the stakeholders, and I found that out 2 weeks ago.
Interesting.
So that's why I put that email out. I'm like, does anybody have feedback on this kind of stuff? Because this is a way for you guys to get feedback. We're going to the legislature legislators again in June, and we've got priorities, and it's like, this is an easy way to gather your stuff and get your voices heard.
Right.
Jeff, what do you have your teachers pay versus what do you like allot them for their, what they get back?
Good question. So everybody pays $15, whether the parents or teachers or whoever. So we have one amount. That's not a big revenue thing for us, honestly. That's not where our revenue comes from. We do other things for revenue. And then we have upped it just before COVID. We upped it to $150 a year. So the teachers can submit receipts for up to $150 per school year of expenses that the district wouldn't cover, but they choose to purchase for their classrooms.
What are your big money makers then?
Well, it used to be like Cherrydale and some of those things, but they got slashed several years ago. So we've actually switched now. The biggest moneymaker we have is now Walkathon. So it's in coordination with the PE department, where they'll have the kids go out and do a walk around the school area like they normally would, but we have parents do donations then for their student. It could be a flat donation, or it could be a per lap or whatever. Most of them are just flat, but that's by far the biggest money maker we have, and really the only dedicated fundraiser we do now. And then we get a little bit from book fair because we run the book fairs at the school, so we probably get about $2,000 a year from book fair across that. And then we do Marcus movie tickets. Doesn't really bring in a lot of revenue at the end because we do prizes for some of the sellers. So it's a small amount, but that's another one that we do, is selling the Marcus movie tickets over the holiday. We do it in November, so you can have it for holidays. A lot of families buy them for gifts.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. One more I wanted to talk about was, starting membership plans early. And in Fargo, I know July, usually right after the 4th of July, like July 7th timeframe, they'll send out saying, okay, you can all now go into Power School, the tool they use here, and you can all start filling out your forms. And there's 13 forms that every parent has to fill out for their students in Fargo. But that's the time we start hitting them up for memberships, right? Say, hey, you're going into Power School. If you're using school pay, you say, hey, use school pay because you're already there for other things. Or if not, make sure you go to Member Hub and renew your PTA or join the PTA. So we start that information really hard in early July. So we don't wait till back to school night, because I think by then, like you said, you're kind of in the rush of all the things you need to do. And between August 20th and September 15th, parents are checked out. They're flooded with information about all the activities and things that need to happen, and PTA is not a priority. So we try to get in before that, or then we come back in September, October with the second push. We kind of avoid everything in between. So that's what works in Fargo. Every school district is different, but that's what has worked out good for us. And we pretty much have like 45 to 50 members by the time school actually starts. They're already signed up with us. That's the early adopters. And then our teachers all come in. There's like 45 or so teachers that will get, teachers and staff that will sign up right that first week of school, because they all do it that first week before classes start. So that gives us, like 80 to 90 members right towards the beginning of school. And then we collect the last bit in September, October for our school. Any other questions on any of that? Okay. One other thing I'll mention, just because we talked about memberships, like I said, I've tried a lot of things. One thing I did try was doing donated memberships, right? So we actually had on our form for a while that you could donate a membership to someone who couldn't afford one, just trying to see if the $15 was a barrier to anyone. We really found after 2 years it wasn't. Nobody was signing up. We actually had memberships that were donated that nobody actually came to claim. So it really wasn't a money thing. It didn't seem like in our school, at least. What I've come to learn is there's just a general fear that if you sign up, you'll have to commit yourself to PTA, and then that's kind of the barrier we're fighting against in our school anyway.
The one thing we did with memberships was like, membership to us is not a big money maker, but we kind of try to make it be, just because we do get such a poor response between a lot of our other stuff. We've got a few random fundraisers we do that make, a good chunk of money, or decent anyway. Mm-hmm. And the one thing that we did, I know a couple of years ago, they had out where it was like $10 teacher membership, $15 this, or I think maybe it was 20. And then we jumped to 50, and it was more like, I don't have any time, nor do I have any brain power to even help you. Take my money. I'll see you next year, And that actually, I was really surprised by how many people were like, here's your $50. We'll see you next year, stuff like that. So, I mean, we kind of giggled about it because we're like, there's no way anyone's going to do this. And then they actually did. So it was kind of interesting in that route. So.
And I've seen a lot of forums like that will actually go to much higher than that. Even they'll say, hey, $500, you will never hear from us again this year. We won't come back till next year. Just write us a check and we're gone.
Right.
And people do that. If you get one or two of those, that's all you need in many cases, right? That makes your revenue side look really good. But yeah, people are willing to do it.
Yeah, we had $200 takers. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Wow, that's awesome.
Here in Fargo, so yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think if you can remove the fear, and we actually put that on our form now. We've actually put membership does not require any sort of investment of your time. We're not asking you sign up to sign your life away. And actually, most of our volunteers are not members, right? Most of our volunteers, that power group I talked about, they are not consistent members, at least, of our PTA. They're volunteering for other reasons. We try to highlight that.
Yeah, I think I saw probably was Washington Elementary. They used to have the gold membership and the silver membership, the bronze membership. Those are the $250 and then $100, and everybody else is the regular member. Yeah, we did. I believe we did have someone sign up for those.
Yeah, it's really kind of learning from booster clubs are really popular, right? I mean, booster clubs have a lot of revenue that comes in, and sort of the same model, right? It's what value do I get for it? It's not that it costs so much; it's what's the value I'm getting, and what's the perceived benefit from what I'm spending, right? And so how do we help put that into PTA, right? Because obviously the $15 PTA membership doesn't do it for most people. So.
Right.
Do you guys think recognition will help? Because that was a long time ago. I think it was Washington Elementary again. They will put the student's name on a big board, whoever their parents has joined PTA. So the kids will actually urge their parents to do it. So one way to do it, I guess. Do people want to see their names? Maybe the parents do want to see, if I pay the $15, I like to see my name somewhere. Maybe they feel compensated.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, the other model that I've looked at, I haven't dared do it yet, but we used to have the jump rope for heart, and we don't do it anywhere our school anymore, but I think it's still around. But they used to give for different levels, right? For different things, you got the little their little animals, right? The little squeezable animals that went on a keychain, and so the kids just loved that, right? And so one of the thoughts I had was, how do we get the kids to drag their parents down to back to school night by, hey, you can get the the koala bear if you come in on back to school night and sign up. If you sign up, after that you get some other animal or whatever. Could we help drive memberships that way? That might create some animosity, people not wanting their kids to drag them down to PTA, but it seems to work for other things, so it might work here too.
We're there for the kids. They can drag their kids down.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Yeah, good point. So I think there's lots of different things that can work. It's just a matter of trying what works for each school and each situation because they're a little bit different. All right, great conversation. So I think we kind of went through all the roles. I did want to close out with some of the resources that are available to you. So if you have questions or challenges throughout the year, anytime, obviously the local liaison person is the right place to start because they can give you advice and also guide you to the right people or places. The North Dakota PTA Leaders Facebook group, has some good discussions from time to time and information shared. So that's a good place to gather information like this from a wide group of experiences. If you don't feel comfortable with that, you can go right to our Gmail at North Dakota PTA at gmail.com. And then we also have our website that we talked about and Member Hub that have resources as well. So quite a few different places that we're trying to make sure that we're available and putting content for all of you. And one that I missed actually is our YouTube videos, which we've been starting to do this year. This meeting will be part of that, just so you can go back and rewatch it and kind of remember what did we talk about back in May of last year. It'll be on that YouTube channel as well. All right, Kristen, anything you want to cover that I missed?
Oh, I think it was really good, Jeff. Thank you for taking the time to put it together and lead this training.
Absolutely. I wanted to put in a word that we are going to have our next workshop is already scheduled. We'll be sending out information as we get closer, but August 16th of this fall will be our first workshop of the new year, and that will be around grants. For those of you who haven't applied for some of the grants, we'll be talking about what that looks like and how simple it can be to apply for some of those national PTA grants as they become available in typically the fall timeframe. So hope to see you there.
Are you
Thank
guys
you.
are you gonna do another roundtable? I know our current president went to the roundtable, I believe in Fargo somewhere, I'm not sure where, but
August 2nd in Fargo. Yep. Sorry, Kristen, go ahead.
Yeah, it's August 2nd in Fargo. We're planning to do one August 1st in Minot and then August 2nd in Fargo.
okay, cool, thank you.
Is that in person or will that be in person and Zoom as well?
We're working on in person.
Okay.
Yay.
Is that a barrier for you?
No, I'm just curious.
Okay.
Great. Any other questions?
They're fun in person.
All right. If there's no other questions, thank you all for attending. Appreciate your time. Appreciate the interaction. It always makes it go much better and much more successfully. So appreciate that. If I don't talk to you, have a great rest of your spring and summer, and then we'll see you all back in the fall.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Kristen.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye.
That was
Bye.
great. Have a good night.
Good night.
Night.